So
Yeah.
Lou Ranieri and Steve Roth were competing in that market. And of course, it didn't make any sense. You couldn't sell bonds backed by loans when the loans were paying a rate lower than treasuries or equal to treasuries. There was no way to do it. So they had a good idea. They just couldn't make it work. Then came the collapse of the market. And all those insurance companies and all those banks literally turned the spigot off at once.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I came along, it was in reaction to the fact that the spigot had been turned off. I didn't have any competition. Like I was, it kind of almost didn't matter what rate I charged the borrower because the alternative was losing the property to foreclosure, right? You imagine a great borrower and he has a great property and he has a relatively low loan to value loans, call it 60%, but the loan matures next month. His lender tells him he doesn't want to renew the loan or roll the loan, and he can't find another lender. So he's facing foreclosure and the loss of his property unless I come along and say, I'll refinance that loan for you, and kind of whatever rate I charge is better than losing the property. So,
and then what were you doing though? Just explain to me what it was you were doing. You were giving him a loan, but where were you getting your capital? You were getting it from the public markets.
Initially I started out backed by Cargill and their financial division. I had a little company. I had left Morgan Stanley to do this, and Cargill was my partner, and we would make a loan. Actually, the initial loans we made were cross-collateralized against a portfolio of properties with a single borrower. So we did 2 or 3 larger single borrower, multiple property deals, got them rated. I worked with there was no model. I worked with the rating agencies to establish a model for analyzing and rating commercial real estate backed securities. And then we would sell in a private placement those bonds, and Cargill and I would get our money back and our profits. Then I met someone from Nomura who really loved what I was doing, and I ended up folding my business into a new company backed by Nomura, and they gave me more capital and a bigger platform, and I staffed it up, and within a year became the largest lender in the United States. So then that became more the CMBS model you see today, right? The making individual loans to individual borrowers that ranged in size from as little as 10 million to as big as hundreds of millions, and then holding them on our balance sheet while we generated the critical mass required to gain the proper diversification to make a securitization efficient. And then going and soliciting the rating agencies' rating, selling the resulting bonds, which was no small task into a market that didn't exist, right? You got to remember when people ask me, like you did, who created CMBS or what was your role? And I said, I created it. The creation part that was the biggest challenge was the convincing bond buyers to buy bonds, right? Let me tell you, that was the hardest part of the job because we were just at the tail end of a catastrophic cycle in real estate. So every bond buyer, like every other investor in the world, was scared out of their minds at the risk of putting real estate risk on the books.
Right.
Bond buyers had never seen real estate risk before because remember, this didn't exist before. So here comes a 32-year-old kid, right, saying, hey, I've got these rated bonds backed by commercial real estate loans. You could only imagine the skepticism that I had to overcome in order to persuade people to play along and invest. So that was the hardest part.